In this story, the main character is assigned the mission of saving the entire world. The primary antagonists are the dragon clans ruling over the demonic realm. Only near the end of his journey does he realize that his duty was to protect the dragon girls rather than destroy them. That is because his mistake had been triggering an apocalypse all along. Our dear John believed he was doing the right thing, but it only provoked the dragon's fury. He fought a grueling battle against those creatures. Even though he managed to take down many dragons, it was never enough, since portals opened and they all flooded into the human world. Then an entity known as the regression clock appeared. After being killed, the protagonist gained the chance to travel back in time. The monsters tried to stop him, but at the final moment he managed to return to the past. Yes, he is thrown 10 years earlier, when people still had no knowledge of the dragon realm. Soon after, a portal appears and everyone assumes it is just some advertising special effect. The girl tries to warn her boyfriend that the situation looks extremely suspicious. While he keeps calling her paranoid, the monster emerges from the portal, and as expected, the guy ends up becoming lunch. Just like in the previous timeline, monsters invade the world here as well. Portals open all across the planet. Fortunately, some humans already possess powers, and those superhumans become humanity's hope. Thus, a new era of constant battles begins. Meanwhile, there is an organization and an island dedicated to training these protectors. On that island, there is also an academy filled with highly trained superhumans. Now that the world has descended into chaos, people start using their abilities for evil. The protagonist, having just been reborn, is there to stop a criminal. Just like 10 years earlier, the thug throws the girl aside. He then tries to strike John, but John dodges with perfect precision. Before becoming humanity's savior, he had been a special agent, and he even finishes off the criminal. John is shocked, guys, because he returned to the past while keeping his overpowered abilities. Bro really came back with the DLC already unlocked. Trying to gather clues on how to save the world, he heads back to the police station where he used to work. Everyone there is already talking about how he rescued the girl. He simply tells the secretary he was only doing his job, but she seems somewhat suspicious in her thoughts. John was not exactly a particularly talented officer. After all, 10 years earlier he had been just a rookie, which explains her confusion. His superiors say John did a great job bringing in the criminal. After noticing how strong the culprit was, they ask how John managed to defeat him. However, John, now far more composed, repeats that he only did his duty. He also knows that 4 dragon hatchlings have already been sent to this world. The 4 major dragon clans had sent their daughters to grow up on Earth. In another timeline, they grew up rejected, which led them to rebel. He once believed they needed to be defeated, but that was not the case. With everything spiraling out of control, the dragons decided to turn against humanity, and that was what triggered the apocalypse that destroyed the world. John is already exhausted, and now he has to start all over again. Just looking at the protagonist's face, you can tell the guy barely sleeps. And you thought being a hero was easy. His colleague immediately starts flattering him, after noticing he seems different, even stronger. Trying to seduce him, she asks if he is free tonight to have dinner with her, but he turns the secretary down and says he already has plans. His plan is to travel to Italy to find the first dragon. John's objective is to gather all 4 dragons and give them a good life to prevent the apocalypse. The first dragon is this green-haired girl. John knows her exact location, which is why he goes straight there. He greets the girl and she turns around looking adorable. In a very serious tone, he tells her she needs to come with him. This girl is actually an extremely powerful dragon, so she asks what he wants from her and even questions whether he knows who she is. John says yes. Curious, the green-haired girl asks how he knows that. She then reveals that she also knows who he is and even calls him John. She even makes a mischievous face, asking if she guessed correctly. The protagonist grows tense and asks how she knows his name. The playful girl then says his name was written on his uniform. Laughing, she admits she was joking and says she does not know him, but she is curious about what he wants to say. Sensing the protagonist's aura, she comments that he does not seem to belong to this world. John becomes slightly tense, wondering if she might have figured out he came from the future. With an innocent expression, the girl asks whether he came to kill her or if he found her pretty and planned to kidnap her, even suggesting he might be some kind of dragon fanatic. He quickly denies all of that and explains that he simply wants to protect her. He reveals that he knows she was sent by the Green Dragon clan and that she was supposed to live alone in this world to study and understand humans. But he already knows that plan did not work out since he came from the future. Walking past her, he quietly says that he understands the true potential of dragons. She asks what she would gain if she allowed him to become her guardian. John replies that he will provide food, a place to live, and even promises her a credit card. She had been thrown into this world without any support, so the offer sounds very appealing. Because of that, she asks him to make a pinky promise. He notices her hand trembling but still agrees to seal the promise. And so they hook their fingers together. With that, he ends up bringing the first dragon to Korea. Early the next morning, she wakes up in her new house and notices him talking to a black flame. The guy literally has an ability to create a clone, and that is exactly what he is doing. While the clone works at the police station, he plans to stay and take care of the dragons. Pretty sure everyone wishes they had a clone for school or work. The clone walks past the girl, and she becomes startled, even commenting on how identical it looks. For now, she does not have a name. The protagonist keeps calling her Green or Green Dragon. He tells her not to be alarmed, explaining that the clone will simply work in his place. He even jokes that the skill is so convenient that he does not need to leave home anymore. This story is really good. The guy plans to gather 4 dragons and give them a comfortable life. But as expected, not all of them will be as kind as the green-haired one. So drop a comment, Dragon's Guardian. The more comments there are, the more the video gets recommended to others. Also subscribe to the channel if you have not already. New videos come out every Monday and Friday, so turn on notifications to avoid missing anything. Back to the story, he explains that her goal right now is simply to enjoy herself. The girl sits on the couch and says she needs to eat breakfast first. She even complains that he did not give her dinner the night before. John tells her she can open the fridge and take whatever she wants, but she gets a little shy. In response, he mentions that dragons do not actually need food to survive. Happily, she says that human food is delicious. Since his house does not have many tasty options, she decides to go to the market and promises to show him what a proper breakfast looks like. 1 minute later, they arrive at the market. People are charmed by the pair, and one man comments that the guy is lucky to be dating such a beautiful girl. In the background, his wife is already hitting him for that remark. Bro spoke and immediately regretted it. John notices that the green dragon draws a lot of attention because of her beauty. She excitedly says she needs breakfast quickly to gain energy. He sighs and says he needs to stop somewhere first. She apologizes for taking so long at the market and says she will go with him. While carrying the groceries, he tells her she really needs to go there because it is related to her. They are heading somewhere to take care of something she will need now that she is living as a human. When they arrive, a man with a suspicious expression asks if the girl is his girlfriend. John denies it, and it turns out she is at a registration office getting an ID card. After some time, she receives the document. He also gives her a holographic watch, which basically functions as a phone in this world. He cannot believe she lived for more than 20 years without a holographic watch or even an ID. In response, she says she has never even had a bank account either. She then asks why he registered her surname as Zhang since it is his last name. He explains that he plans to give all the dragons new names and the same surname to avoid conflict. This makes her happy, and she says she likes the name Veronica Zhang. She even thanks him for everything he has done for her. The girl admits that at first she felt a bit scared, since John had an intimidating aura. However, her instincts told her to trust him because he did not seem like a bad person. Veronica adds that she trusts her instincts, as she belongs to the Green Dragon clan. He thought Veronica was a naive girl, but he soon realized she was actually quite clever. Since her goal was to learn more about humans, she says she concluded that he is a very kind person. Yeah, not so sure about that girl. He is probably just trying to stop the world from ending. In the previous timeline, he never got to see the girl's bright smile. He tells himself that things will be different this time and promises to give all of them a fulfilling life. The scene shifts to another part of the planet, specifically the African continent. A red-haired girl is giving criminals a harsh lesson, to put it lightly. One man tries to insult her, claiming he belongs to a powerful family, but he ends up getting stomped right in the face. The redhead is so strong that none of her opponents even stand a chance. After adjusting her mask, she announces that she has reached her 199th victory since she has fought in that many battles. A perfect record. She is the dragon from the Red Dragon clan. News about monster attacks keeps appearing in newspapers, along with reports about a masked girl seeking fights. While researching, John realizes she is the Red Dragon and decides he must act quickly before she becomes even more violent. At that moment, the Green Dragon, Veronica, says lunch is ready, and just looking at it is enough to make anyone's stomach turn. She proudly says it is a special recipe she learned in Europe, maybe medieval Europe. There is no way. Not wanting to upset her, he pretends he is going to eat it. Just by his expression, it is obvious he is not excited at all. Changing the subject, he says he has found the Red Dragon. However, Veronica explains that unlike her, the Red one is very difficult to handle and adds that the Red Dragon clan is notoriously troublesome. John already knows this very well, but he assures her he has a strategy. According to Veronica, the Red Dragon clan always seeks to display physical strength. He rubs his chin, thinking about what name he should give the redhead. He also mentions to Veronica that someone is already hunting her. Because of that, they need to move quickly to save the red-haired girl. If they delay, she might be captured. He decides to name the Red Dragon Hana, and says he will bring Veronica along to help persuade her. Since they already know each other, convincing her to live with them might be easier. Veronica says that sounds like a good idea, and agrees to help. However, she has one condition. She wants John to eat all the food she prepared. The protagonist takes a deep breath and forces himself to eat the horrible meal. Hero mission level, survival mode. Meanwhile, as John tries to rescue Hana, she is busy beating up various criminals. The thing she enjoys most is picking fights. While walking, she says she has reached her 200th victory. Some criminals are setting up an ambush and wonder how elite fighters like them are getting beaten by a girl. One of them even says she is clearly not ordinary. While they whisper, she suddenly finds them hiding behind a wall. One of the men screams that she appeared behind them, but it is already too late. At that moment, a bright light shines toward her and she is struck by a beam of energy. She skillfully uses her sword to block the attack. The men ask how she managed to cut through that mana energy and notice a masked man standing behind her. He is a superhuman hunting her because she has been causing too much trouble. She tells the masked man he scared her, but she also becomes excited since he seems strong. The masked man says he did not expect her to be so young, and she teases him, asking if he fell in love and joking that he cannot attack her because she is too pretty. When he states that the difference in power between them is huge, she bursts into laughter. Even with her weapon destroyed, she says she will fight with her fists and rushes toward him using her mana. However, the warrior blocks her attack with his sword. Hana does not give up and unleashes multiple strikes. She even tries to aim for low blows. Still, she becomes surprised because he has not even moved. The man tells her she fights like a child. He also says that for her own good she should give up. He then prepares to finish her off. Realizing the attack will be dangerous, she steps back. It seems she has finally encountered someone stronger. With a serious gaze, he uses the light slash technique. The girl knows she cannot dodge and is hit directly. She is sent flying. The masked man realizes she survived only because she reinforced her fists with power. When the dust settles, she is no longer there. Veronica has appeared to rescue Hana. The redhead immediately starts yelling at the green-haired girl, asking what she is doing there. Veronica tells her to stay quiet. At the same moment, she begins using her draconic power to heal her companion, but the redhead complains that she does not want anyone interfering in her duel. Veronica also says that if Hana were to die, she would feel very sad. Wait, who is Hana? She continues healing her wounds, and says that death is not an option for her companion. Cheerfully, Veronica says she wants to spend a long time on Earth with her friends. Of course, Hana starts wondering what got into her friend, and with a bright smile the green-haired girl says the master will take care of everything. Master? What master? Just wait and see. The master is none other than John, who is already there dealing with the masked man. The warrior turns around and asks who he is, and John replies that he is Hana's guardian. Meanwhile, the protagonist clone is in the Amazon rainforest searching for the third dragon. He finds a blonde girl, and she happily asks who he is. Just by sensing his energy, she knows he is not a bad person. Back in Africa, he is busy saving Hana. The warrior asks whether John is really her guardian, since the redhead has caused many problems in Africa, but John tells him to turn around and forget she ever set foot there. However, the man says this guy is talking nonsense and that he will not let her walk away unpunished. With a stern look, he adds that if John stands in his way, he will also face the consequences. Serious as ever, the protagonist says he will not let him pass. So the warrior draws his blade and says he will have to eliminate both of them. He rushes toward the protagonist and unleashes an extremely powerful attack. When the dust settles, he realizes no one is standing in front of him anymore. He even laughs, saying the black-haired man only looked strong but was actually weak. However, the protagonist is standing right behind him. John says he expected more from a superhuman ranked 8th. The man quickly turns around, asking how John got behind him. At that moment, his arm is torn off. He starts screaming in pain. John walks slowly, and as he approaches, he says for him to listen carefully. Today is the unluckiest day of your life. As an investigator, while you were hunting that girl, you encountered an even greater monster. And unfortunately, I am not that kind. If you want a chance to survive, you should forget everything you saw here today. He delivers another strike and the man falls to the ground, coughing up blood. Besides losing his arms, he also loses his vision. All of this is done so that the superhuman cannot report to the magical organization. Hana watches everything unfold and is left in shock. Veronica tells Hana that this is their master and that he is very powerful. Yeah, she probably figured that out already. He approaches the red dragon and says that from now on her name will be Hana and she will live with him. He even promises to give her plenty of freedom and support whatever she wants to do. However, she will not be allowed to cross certain limits. At that moment, Veronica hugs her friend and says their master is scaring her, then winks at John and says she will explain the rules so the girl does not get frightened. John simply sighs and agrees. The only thing he repeats is that from now on she will be called Hana. She gets annoyed and says she never agreed to that name. At that moment, he receives a call from his clone. Through the call, the clone tells the main body that he has found the third dragon. Our hero even compliments his clone. In the end, gathering the first 3 turns out easier than he expected. The blonde asks the man who he is talking to and excitedly asks if she can see his watch, since they are using those devices to communicate. In the previous timeline, this golden dragon had become a famous star. However, she was betrayed, and after accumulating so much anger, she turned into an evil being. All living beings need love and care, especially dragons. John hands the watch to the girl, and she becomes very happy. She immediately starts activating the hologram screens and plays around with them. At that moment, John asks her why she is in a place like this, deep in the forest. He says such a place is dangerous, and that her goal should be to have fun, not put herself at risk. So you know I am a dragon, right? I could smell the green dragon on you. He calls the golden dragon and asks if she became afraid of people. That is why she isolated herself in the Amazon rainforest. Fidgeting with her fingers, she says the people in this world are very scary. When she arrived in this world a few years ago, people treated her in a very threatening manner. Because of that, she explains that she decided to live somewhere far away. He asks whether she likes sweets, and she replies that dragons do not need to eat. He snaps his fingers, and a strange portal opens, bringing him a bag of bread. Naturally, the blonde does not expect that and realizes it is real sweet bread. He offers it to her, and her eyes start sparkling. From his past life, he already knows she loves sweets, especially bread. He even invites the golden dragon to come live with him. He explains that the other dragons, who are her friends, are already staying there, and he will provide safety and plenty of food. However, she says her mother told her not to follow strangers, but to persuade her. He says he will buy lots of donuts. Hearing that, her eyes shine even more. Of course she is going to accept. And so she ends up going to Korea. Hana is already in her new house, but she is very upset. This is because she was completely humiliated in her fight against the masked man. She did not know there were people that powerful. Just thinking about her master's strength makes her feel humiliated and angry. Veronica notices her friend and realizes she is feeling down. But at that moment someone arrives. It is the golden dragon. She is extremely happy because there are many sweets. She is even eating one. When she bites into the donut, she shivers. That is because the food is incredibly delicious. She welcomes her master and notices her friend is there. She starts shouting, saying the green dragon is in front of her, and runs to hug her old friend. Excited, she asks where the red one is. Veronica explains that she is now called Hana. John thanks his clone for completing a good mission. At that moment, the redhead opens the door. She is still not very comfortable with her master and gives him an annoyed look, since she cannot stand having someone stronger than her in the same house. Right then, the golden dragon runs toward her and asks what that smell is, wondering if she is using something strange. However, Hana grabs the girl's mouth and starts yelling, saying the blonde is very annoying. After that, the protagonist decides to hold a meeting and asks their ages. Veronica says she is 20 and Yara is 18. Hana is 19. The blonde receives the name Yara and proudly says her name is beautiful and that she has a great figure. The redhead even feels a bit jealous because her younger sister has a more impressive chest. They will all share the same surname as their master, which is Jong. That will help avoid conflicts between them. The blonde keeps repeating her name, Yara Jong. The pendant around her neck is actually the egg of the fourth sister. She will be the final dragon, belonging to the Blue Dragon clan. Our hero says he will name her Gabi, and explains that they can have fun, but they must behave properly. What does behaving properly mean? She asks, and he explains that he will manage all their entertainment, which makes the redhead call him a dictator. That creates a slightly tense atmosphere. Veronica stands up and says she agrees with the rules. They cannot cross the line or do anything wrong. Since Veronica loves shopping, she invites her sisters to go to the mall, and all of them get extremely excited. John hands them a wallet, saying they can spend freely. Seriously? We can spend as much as we want, they ask, and he confirms they can. And just like that, the shopping spree begins. He only watches the notifications appearing on his watch. Looks like the bill at the end of the month is going to be massive. When they return at night, he realizes they bought many unnecessary things. Veronica comes up to him to return the wallet and apologizes for buying too much. He is already feeling a bit regretful for letting them spend without limits. Yara calls for her master's attention, asking if he likes her new clothes. In a serious tone, he says they suit her well, and she thanks him. Hana thinks all of this is nonsense. When he asks what she bought, she says she only purchased a sword. She scratches her head awkwardly, saying she bought another sword because hers was destroyed. He praises her, saying she knows how to choose the right weapons. Yara runs toward Hana, telling her to try on the new clothes. Veronica approaches and says they are all very grateful to him, but the other two are not good at expressing it. "And you did not buy anything?" he asks, and she says she did, pointing to the table where a small flower vase is sitting. He asks whether she enjoys taking care of plants, and she says she does, explaining that once it blooms, it will become something truly beautiful, and she tells him to memorize the flower's appearance so he never forgets it. The man wonders if she really finds that entertaining, pointing out that most women usually prefer food or clothing. Meanwhile, Veronica only bought a small flower pot and says she has great news for the girl. He enrolled her in the city's magic academy. The other girls hear this and immediately head over. A few days later, they had already taken the exam. When they returned home, they called out for their master. The blonde girl was acting a bit dramatic, since she was the youngest and worried she might not pass the Magic Academy test. The protagonist shows up, assuring her that she will pass because she is very smart. She runs over to hug him, saying she did not perform very well in the interview. He explains that he took a while to come upstairs because he went downstairs to pick something up. At that moment, she smells something delicious coming from the bag, and he tells her it is something she really likes. It was not sweets, guys, but fried chicken. She immediately says she loves it, even though she has never tried it before. Hana asks how that could possibly be her favorite food when she has never tasted it. She asks if he is not going to eat, and the man says he is not hungry. However, she makes an adorable face. She asks him to eat together with them, but he says he needs to make a phone call. The person who answers is the Magic Academy's secretary. The secretary mentions there was a small issue during today's interview, specifically regarding the candidate Veronica Jong. She explains that Veronica achieved the highest possible score, leaving all the interviewers completely stunned. Because of that, they would like to make an offer, and it was an offer that was supposedly impossible to refuse. The secretary says they want Veronica to become the student council president, but John says he will decline. At that moment, Hana steps outside, and he quickly hangs up to avoid suspicion. She asks if he was talking about the green one during the call, and the protagonist tells her to call her Veronica, not Green. However, the redhead says he is just pretending to play house. Calm down there, redhead. The old guy is literally trying to save you, girl. She looks upset and asks why he is sending them to the Magic Academy. He replies that she should do whatever she wants, and she says her wish is to fight strong opponents. He then reveals that the Magic Academy has many powerful girls and plenty of strong boys as well. However, that was not what she wanted. The girl says she wants to fight him instead, since she saw how overwhelmingly powerful he was when he defeated that warrior so effortlessly, and she wants to know if she is truly that weak. The protagonist simply looks at her and tells her to go inside and eat the fried chicken. She starts complaining, saying he is completely ignoring her. At that moment, Yara appears, asking if the redhead does not want the chicken, and she pushes a drumstick right into her mouth. And that is when she realizes the fried chicken tastes amazing. The Magic Academy was built on top of a floating island. It was a school for superhumans that trained young people to become powerful warriors. Through a hologram, Yara sees that this academy world is meant for privileged individuals, and only extremely rich or noble people can enter. They start imagining that their master must be incredibly wealthy and powerful to enroll the three of them there. She even jumps with joy, saying this is the happiest day of her life. However, she begins to miss their master, and Hana. Ver joins a combat club, so she heads there. Since the young superhumans were very immature, they needed a guardian. And the guardian for the three of them was none other than John. Veronica explains that John is there with Hana, because in the area she signed up for, people fight to determine who is stronger. The blonde girl gets excited, saying they should run over to watch the fight. However, Veronica says they cannot go there, because a large crowd could cause chaos. At that moment, they realize they are a bit lost and decide to head to the dormitory. Meanwhile, multiple battles were happening in the fight club, and everyone truly wanted to prove who was the strongest. Because of that, the organizers arranged several matches. John was there waiting to see when Hana would fight. One of the teachers tells everyone to calm down, as parents and guardians watching were starting to complain about the delay. He walks over to the hallway where the protagonist was standing. He introduces himself as Will and says he is the head professor of the combat dormitory. The guardians comment that the man seems very polite, but the protagonist already knew that this professor would not turn out to be a good person. At that moment, they call contestants 124 and number 7. Hana was holding a sword as she stepped onto the ring. Her opponent was a blonde girl named Sophia. The redhead confidently swears she will defeat her in the blink of an eye, but Sophia claims Hana is a coward for fighting with a weapon. She says she could win whether it was with a wooden sword or even without one. This one was seriously confident. The fight was about to begin. The boys nearby start discussing who they think will win. One of them says he believes Sophia will take the victory, since she belonged to the special agents. These special agents were an extremely well-trained hunter unit. To become agents, they had to go through very harsh training. The girl's guardian was her own father, and he begins shouting encouragement. She makes a bored expression, saying it is extremely embarrassing. Deep down, she is just hoping her father stops humiliating her. Of course, Hana uses this to tease her, calling her a daddy's girl. Sophia tells the redhead to shut up, giving a sinister smile and asking if Hana wants to be eliminated. Ah, that is exactly what I like. Make that evil face. It will be more satisfying when I beat you. The boys comment that this newcomer Hana seems pretty scary. Meanwhile, the protagonist wonders what level of strength the two possess. Sophia takes an attack stance, while the arrogant Hana waits for her opponent to move first. The signal is given, and surprisingly the blonde rushes forward immediately. She tries to strike Hana, but the redhead blocks and keeps taunting, saying Sophia is not that slow. Hana swings her wooden sword, but the girl ducks and counters with a kick, and at the last second Hana blocks, though the attack tears her clothes, making her angry as she says the blonde will pay for the damage. At that moment, Sophia begins hopping in a strange way, preparing for another attack. Then she charges toward Hana. The strikes were extremely fast, and Hana notices the protective barrier nearby, so she uses it as a springboard, gaining momentum towards Sophia. The redhead laughs confidently and delivers a slash with her sword. The blow is so strong that it injures the blonde's arm. She groans in pain, and Hana knows this is her chance to end the fight. She presses forward with her sword and immediately chases after the girl. This completely catches her off guard. I was only playing with you the whole time. After saying that, Hana lands a powerful strike and sends the girl crashing into the wall. The hit is so heavy she loses consciousness, and when she regains awareness, she is already defeated. Looking up, she realizes she was humiliated by a newcomer. Hana even mocks her, saying she expected this academy to have strong people. Hearing that, the blonde becomes extremely furious. Her father, acting as her guardian, rushes over asking if Sophia is okay. The other students could not believe Sophia had been crushed like that. One bull-headed guy comments that the newcomer does not even have a scratch. The crowd starts saying the newcomer is incredibly strong, and some even begin admiring her. A nurse uses healing magic while people whisper that she is a disappointment for losing to someone who just joined the academy. The nurse tells the girl's father she will recover quickly, but Sophia insists she has not lost, and says the judge stopped the fight before she was truly defeated. However, her father tells her to calm down, saying she did very well and that losing does not matter, she just needs to get stronger, and he assures her he is not disappointed. While he is talking, she secretly takes his dagger. The nurse shouts, asking where she thinks she is going, even telling her father that the girl looks like she is about to do something reckless. Furious, she says she refuses to lose like that. She calls out to Hana, asking where the redhead thinks she is going, and immediately tries to strike her from behind. The protagonist watches everything, and Hana barely manages to dodge, getting grazed. Enraged, Sophia says she will not forgive her. The students are shocked, and the professor simply keeps watching. Very serious. Our hero, he trusts Hana's power since she is a dragon. Even though the attack only grazed her, it still caused significant damage, and both of them are thrown apart. Hana realized that it had been a dagger that had pierced her, and she still kept mocking, saying that that bastard was a coward. However, she got scared, since the girl looked like a wild animal. With great mastery, Hana dodges at the last instant and ends up grabbing the girl by the hair. Sophia was out of control, and Hana says that she will hit her so that the girl calms down and ends up landing a punch right in the middle of the face. She prepares to deliver other attacks, and the students there, they get scared, and she hits so hard that she throws Sophia toward the boys. The blonde girl was all hurt on the ground, and after picking up that dagger, she says that she had not yet finished the job. She would make the girl pay in the same coin. However, someone ends up grabbing her arm, and it was precisely the girl's father, saying that it was for her to stop doing that. The teacher says that the exam is temporarily suspended, and the teachers who were only watching, who did not help at all, start to make a protective barrier. That barrier is to prevent other people from entering there inside. Hana ends up dropping the dagger and still says that it was that bastard's daughter who attacked her first. The guy was such a hypocrite because when it was his daughter hitting it was all fine, but when his daughter started getting beaten, he already went there to interrupt. The teacher there, he appears trying to calm the tempers, and even said that no one will be punished, since the fight ended up being out of control. The redhead says that she is the victim there because she was attacked from behind. However, he said that if she kept shouting, she could suffer the consequences, even because she did not even belong to a noble family. And Sophia, unlike her, was from a very powerful family. The guy even keeps mocking her surname, which is Zhang, saying that he does not even know this family, and still says that if she continues picking fights with these powerful people, even her family could suffer the consequences. She realized that this world was quite cruel and unfair. He continues threatening the girl, saying that she does not even have a guardian to protect her. But at that moment, our hero, he ends up crossing that barrier as if it were nothing, and said that he was Hana's guardian. And he even says that he should not be threatening his girl, because otherwise this teacher would have to settle the debts with him. Both were surprised because our protagonist, he entered in the middle of that barrier without great difficulties. And at the same time, the redhead, she was feeling guilty because she picked a fight. The scene changes to a little later in the academy building. They were trying to resolve the matter there of the fight, and the teacher was trying to calm all of them and even brought an iced tea. He looked there at John and kept wondering what family was this, Zhang, that he had never heard of, and how he had crossed the barrier. It meant that he was extremely powerful. After sitting down, the teacher says that he does not even know where to start. First of all, he holds the very organization there of the fight responsible, which let it get out of control. But fortunately, Sophia did not have any severe damage, and will get better very quickly. The girl's face was looking like a basketball, but it is all fine. The teacher says that they do not need to make any fuss about it, and that things will be resolved in a peaceful way. Sophia's father, he was a guy from a noble family, and he was all angry, demanding apologies. However, he ends up recognizing that it was his daughter who started the mess, and ends up apologizing to John. The man says that Sophia is still very immature and that she let herself be carried away emotionally. However, John does not accept the apologies coming from the guardian. The guy already gets angry, hitting his hand on the table. And John said that he would like to hear those apologies coming from Sophia's mouth. The guy becomes extremely angry, saying that he is her guardian and therefore he has the right to make this apology request. But it is no use, guys. Our dear protagonist said that he would not accept his apologies. Of course, the man starts throwing a tantrum, but John says that he will not change his mind. While the two guys were insulting each other, the teacher stays there trying to keep calm. John even asks why the girl's father did not stop his daughter from hitting Hana with the sword, and all nervous, he says that things happened very fast and that he did not see. But John says that he is an idiot because he let his own daughter steal his dagger, and on top of that did nothing to stop her. The guy then already grabs our protagonist by the coat and starts threatening him, and said that his family was extremely noble and important, and our protagonist would be picking a fight with someone he could not defeat. However, John ended up stealing his dagger. The guy was surprised, and John said that this sword, it is very sharp, and that he is so stupid that he could not see someone taking his blade. This happened because the sheath there of his blade was very loose. At that moment, our hero passes very close to him, calling him by the name Milikov, and says that if he continues acting that way, soon he will lose his life. Milikov had never felt so much fear like that before. After giving the man a light pat on the shoulder, the protagonist says that next time he will not tolerate him causing such a huge scene. The aura radiating from John was terrifying, and even the professor stood there stunned. After leaving the room, he runs into Hana, and the girl looks a bit embarrassed. He asks how her body is, and she says it was just a scratch, but at the same time she feels bad for creating trouble for him. Then she asks if he thinks she was also in the wrong. The poor girl blames herself, saying everything happened because of her, scratching her head as she admits she needs to act more maturely from now on. But the protagonist tells her she did very well, and that next time she should eliminate them somewhere no one can see. She freezes for a moment, wondering if he really said that, and ends up looking smitten, saying he is the best guy in the world. "You really said that, right? You will not regret it later." He tells Hana that when they get home she should pack her bags, because they will move to the Magic Academy. At that moment the professor calls them over and says he would like to talk briefly with both of them. He says it is something important and that it would be good if Hana joined, but the girl says she does not want to hear a lecture. But that was not it. The professor says he wants to appoint her as the first-year representative of the combat dormitory. She would become the face of the dorm, since all the students found her impressive. John asks if a professor can even make such an offer, and the long-haired man says he has connections with the vice principal. John knew the vice principal was not a good person. The vice principal of the Magic Academy was named Nanju, and he seemed very suspicious. The protagonist even tells himself that he needs to find out what those two are plotting. Because of his past life, he knew these people had accepted the power of the Abyss. Unlike superhumans who gained abilities through blessings, those who accepted the Abyss became corrupted by malicious desires. People who accepted these powers were called corruptors, and this professor was one of them. In his previous life, John himself had eliminated him. Now he must restrain himself from doing it again, since it would raise major suspicions, so the hero pretends he knows nothing. He turns to Hana and asks if she wants to become the class representative. The professor starts making multiple promises, saying she will benefit a lot. He even says she will receive preferential treatment. He makes so many promises that the girl begins to grow suspicious, so she says she is not very interested, and thanks him for the invitation. Confused, the professor asks if he heard her correctly. She turns her back and says she has no interest in that, even telling her guardian, the protagonist, that they should leave already. Her desire is not to gain attention. The man does not understand, and she says her only wish is to fight strong opponents. It was an irresistible offer, yet the girl still refused. At that moment, something outside catches his attention, and he asks Hana to look out the window. Those were reporters who had heard about the battle. She attracted a lot of attention because she was a newcomer beating a veteran. He even says that even if she does not want attention, it is inevitable. However, the girl walks away saying she does not care about that. The professor watches her with a strange expression and says he sincerely hopes she does not regret it. The journalists notice her leaving the academy and rush over to ask questions. The poor girl looks completely overwhelmed. One reporter asks how she feels after becoming famous, since some students recorded the fight and posted it online. All those questions begin to irritate Hana. John tells them not to pressure the girl because she is injured. But as we know, Hana is not the patient type, and she immediately grabs the microphone. She says a very rude word, guys, something I cannot repeat here. The scene shifts to a bit later. They were moving to live in the academy dormitory. When Yara hears this, she becomes extremely excited. She says the dorm looks really luxurious and runs off, shouting that the stairs are amazing. She rushes upstairs, reaches a room, and is amazed by how fancy it is. She tries all the furniture, sitting in the armchair, lying on the bed, and even jumping on the table. She even says that from now on she will live like a rich girl. However, Hana appears behind her, saying that room will be hers. Naturally, the blonde gets angry, saying she arrived first, but the older ones get to choose first, and she becomes visibly sad. Meanwhile, Veronica is taking care of the egg, which had already grown in size. She sprays water on it to keep it hydrated, saying she cannot wait for Gabby to be born. The hero shows up and asks why Veronica was sprinkling water, and she explains that blue dragons like to stay hydrated. He also notices that the necklace holding the egg had changed shape. She asks how Hana is doing after all that news. She had already drawn a lot of attention because of the battle, but during the interviews she ended up saying something very inappropriate. John watches the comments people are leaving on his watch. When he tries to question Hana about it, she says everyone does what she mentioned in the interview, and even asks her younger sister if she wants to know what she said. The blonde immediately says she does want to know, so Hana blurts out the forbidden word. That leaves the blonde completely embarrassed. She even starts teasing Yara by repeating that word. After grabbing her arm, she says Yara does not need to cover her ears because she will hear everything she has to say. The protagonist stands there like a statue and does nothing. Early the next morning, Yara runs off to wake Hana, and the redhead, being herself, asks if the little girl wants to hear more about what she told the reporters. But that was not it. Yara rushes down the stairs, saying her friend needs to come see what is happening. Curious, Hana asks what it is and realizes the egg is about to hatch. Veronica asks if Hana has already arrived, because Gabby was about to be born. Slowly, the egg begins to crack, and the girls watch with curiosity. It was the first time John would witness a dragon's birth. Surprisingly, all his memories involving dragons in his past life were tied to something terrible, since thousands of people died because of them. In the middle of a battle, he hears a woman begging him to save her baby. However, John's companion tells him they arrived too late. The child was no longer alive. If only they had been stronger, they could have prevented the world's destruction. Now that he returned in time, he had the chance to save people. Remember guys, the protagonist always keeps that gloomy expression because he is somewhat depressed, since everyone he knew ended up dying. Hana tries to hide her excitement, and soon a tiny blue dragon emerges from the egg. Gabby had just been born. They wrap her in a towel. While Veronica cleans the baby dragon, John asks where she learned to do that. She says all dragons learn from their mothers how to care for other dragons, and even offers the protagonist the chance to hold Gabby. He refuses, so Yara goes over to hold the baby and rubs the dragon's head against her cheek, saying it is adorable. Then she gives a serious look and, laughing, tells Hana to hold little Gabby too, tossing the baby toward her. After holding the baby in her arms, Hana feels a warm sensation. Yara asks if she liked it. Hana says yes and tells John to hold the baby as well. No sneaking away, John, you also have to hold Gabby. She threatens to drop the baby dragon, saying if John does not catch her, she will fall to the floor. Veronica tells him he should at least try holding the baby once. He finally gives in, takes the small baby into his arms, and gently pats her head. Yara says she will capture this moment in a photo, and that everyone should pose to celebrate. After picking up a rose, she says she will place it in John's hair, and also puts a small flower on the dragon's head, and they take the picture. The girls tease him, saying he looks very handsome. Then they all gather closer to take more pictures together, and Yara snaps a selfie. After a while, little Gabby was drinking from a bottle. Veronica says she will teach Gabby the power of polymorphism, which would allow her to transform into a human form. She could pass this ability to the baby dragon simply by touching her forehead to hers. However, it required a lot of life force and was difficult. Concerned, John asks if she can do it safely. Veronica says yes, explaining that when she was a dragon she learned this skill from her own mother, and the earlier it is learned the better. The protagonist still looks worried, but Veronica assures him there is no problem. She says she only wants to ask him for one favor, leaving him confused. She asks him to stay close to her because she might faint. With a mischievous smile, she tells him to sit right beside her. She even pats the sofa, saying he does not need to sit so far away. She explains that when one dragon passes its power to another, it loses energy and may faint. Then she makes a teary face, saying she wants to see Gabby's human appearance as soon as possible. Their hero assures her that she does not need to worry, and promises he will take good care of her once she loses consciousness. They end up leaning shoulder to shoulder, and she becomes extremely shy, trembling slightly. He asks why her face is so red, and she tries to brush it off casually. Then she takes a deep breath and presses her head against Gabby's, transferring her power so the girl can assume a human form. Several hours pass, and Veronica truly collapses from exhaustion. He praises her, saying she did an excellent job. She rises unsteadily and says she is going to lie down in her room. However, she missteps and realizes she is about to fall straight to the floor. Fortunately, John is right there to catch her. She becomes incredibly embarrassed after being lifted into his arms. He carries her to the bedroom, making her feel even more in love with him. After placing her on the bed, John tells her to rest properly. He then closes the bedroom door and notices a bright glow coming from the living room. When he goes to check, he finds that Gabby has transformed into a human. She is an adorable little girl with blue hair, looking extremely shy. He does not quite know how to react. The scene shifts to the regional police station. His clone is working, and they are on a mission to locate a certain criminal group. Since he has been standing out because of his abilities, his teammates start flattering him and even invite him to have dinner with them. However, he refuses, saying he needs to leave early today. His colleagues complain that he always declines and even ask if he has a girlfriend. John denies it and simply ignores them as he walks away. On the way, he crosses paths with a woman and uses his power to take on her appearance. This skill originally belonged to a demon, but he managed to steal it. Many of the abilities he acquired came from demons he defeated in his previous life. Now in a female form, he meets his real body. The clone approaches John and calls out to him. However, the clone looks surprised because John is holding a baby. He explains that he took the girl to a hair salon, and people passing by in the square commented that they looked like a lovely couple. Yeah, people jump to conclusions fast. The clone asks if she can hold the baby if he is feeling uncomfortable. But the baby clearly does not like this clone very much. She even startles the clone a little. John says he does not need to carry Gabby all the time since she can walk. After placing her on the ground, she wanders off to look at some insects and flowers. He also explains that Veronica used her mental transfer ability to give Gabby a human form. He adds that the other two are under his control, so there is no risk of them becoming malicious. The clone agrees with the plan, although her tone sounds slightly odd. John reveals she does not need to pretend, since everything she thinks is transmitted to him anyway. The clone becomes worried. She says she has no complaints and was only questioning the mission. It is then revealed that this clone is actually a demon he defeated in the past. When the demon was defeated, it ended up becoming his servant. Even though it looked terrifying, it still had a kind heart. The woman admits that carrying out missions for him is somewhat difficult because she does not fully understand his true desire. He states that his only wish is to maintain world peace, and after standing up, he tells his clone to simply follow the assigned missions without asking questions. He even mentions that his teammates are getting disappointed since he keeps refusing dinner invitations and that he should accept sometimes. The clone thinks those teammates are quite foolish and hard to tolerate. Nevertheless, she says she understands and will carry out the mission. He watches her from a distance, but then something else catches his attention. It is a mother with a little girl. and the child is happily holding a stuffed toy she just received. Little Gabby observes this and then looks at John, silently showing she wants one too. He opens a portal, grabs a teddy bear, and hands it to her. The girl is unsure how to react, but her blushing cheeks show she liked it. John asks if she enjoyed it, and she places the toy on the ground before walking toward him. He lifts her into his arms and asks why she did not like the teddy bear, but she did like it, and she gently places her small hand on his face, leaning forward to touch her forehead to his. That is how dragons express that they liked something. He even recalls that this was exactly what Veronica did with Gabby. But surprisingly, memories from his previous life begin resurfacing. It feels as if a terrifying nightmare is flooding his mind. He even remembers the regression watch that sent him back in time. When the little girl steps away, those memories fade from his thoughts. She looks slightly confused, so he gives her a gentle smile to calm her. Then they start heading home. The little girl drags the stuffed bear along the ground. John's greatest fear is failing this mission and watching everything be destroyed again. Along the way, he suddenly stops because Yara is running toward him while shouting. She lifts the girl into her arms and hugs her tightly. She realizes that Gabby shows affection by touching foreheads. Yara understands that the girl is telling her she received a stuffed toy. John asks if she can communicate with the baby simply by touching foreheads. Yara confirms that she can. This confuses him, because when he touched the girl's head, he saw nightmares from his previous life, making him wonder if the child has some kind of dark power. He then asks what is on Yara's back, and she reveals she is learning to play guitar, pulling it out of her backpack. She says she really likes human music and plans to become a singer. He remembers that she followed that exact path in the previous timeline and became a famous star. At the same time, he also recalls how that future eventually collapsed for her. When he found Yara back then, she was completely broken. He knows that if she walks the same road again, she might become another monster capable of destroying the world. Because of that, he cannot allow her to fall into ruin as well. He looks at her seriously and notices her fingers are injured from pressing the guitar strings. He tells her not to push herself too hard and to treat it as just a hobby. She asks why he is saying that, but John simply tells her not to overdo it. He then asks whether Veronica has woken up. Yara says she has not, since she spent too much energy transferring power to Gabby. John asks how long she will remain asleep, and Yara admits she does not know. Meanwhile, Hana spends the entire day in front of the television. She is completely obsessed with Korean dramas. One episode becomes 10, we all know how that goes. Soon after, they arrive home, and John senses intruders. Yara innocently heads toward the kitchen, but he grabs her shoulder and tells her to go upstairs immediately and not come back down because someone is inside the house. The blonde girl understands instantly, picks up Gabby and runs upstairs. He tries to identify the intruders, and when he enters the kitchen, he finds them. There are 4 men wearing armor. One of them asks what John did to the green dragon. They even question whether he is a threat. In the Demon Kingdom, dragons had tin-like guardians, knights bound to armor who served them like slaves. The most powerful guardians also acted as bodyguards for hatchlings. John realizes they came to protect the green dragon. However, they believe he is responsible for putting her into a coma. Furious, one guardian demands to know what he did and even threatens him with a spell. Since John does not answer immediately, the guardian attacks. John asks if that is a barrier magic from a high-level guardian. The guardian says he will ask one last time. He demands to know what John did to the green dragon. John replies that she is not called Green Dragon anymore, but Veronica. He also explains about the blue dragon, Gaby. He says Veronica used her transfer ability so the girl could learn to transform into a human. That is why she is unconscious. The guardian asks who he is, and John answers that he is the guardian of the dragons, explaining he is protecting them. The men do not believe him and insist they are the true guardians. Drawing his sword, one guardian declares he will not accept a human acting as their bodyguard, since humans are weak. John takes a deep breath and says it would be better to resolve things through conversation rather than battle, but they charge at him anyway. Everyone knows the protagonist is not about to let that slide, so he calmly blocks with his shadow sword. The guardian is shocked because his attack is stopped effortlessly. John then unleashes a gust of wind that throws the guardians backward. They cannot understand how a human could be so strong. They launch another wave of attacks. One guardian admits that this human is far stronger than they expected. In the blink of an eye, all of them are sliced in half. Their armors crash onto the floor. John intentionally leaves only one of them intact. At that moment, the remaining guardian begins trembling, since the aura radiating from John feels dark and overwhelming. The man tries to figure out what John actually is. Of course, he is not about to explain that he came from the future loaded with abilities, so he dismisses his sword and calmly says he is just a human who wants to bring peace to the world. He even asks how that tin guardian ended up on the human planet. The guardian says it happened because of a dimensional distortion. The dragon clan leader opened a portal so they could come to this world and protect the dragons. However, they ended up getting lost for some time. John asks for more details, but the guardian admits that is all he knows. The guardian adds that they were supposed to have arrived long ago. John wants to understand how the demons opened this portal, since he never discovered it in his previous life. While the guardian attempts to explain, John remarks that the explanation is not convincing enough. He tries to recall his past life and cannot remember any guardians coming to protect dragons. That is why it is strange that these guardians appeared only in this timeline. The Guardian explains they were lost in space and time for a long period until an entity appeared to guide them. It was as if this being showed him the path to cross the portal and reach Earth. When they followed that energy, they eventually found the green dragon. John says he needs to verify something and touches the Guardian's head. He then asks the Tin Guardian to look into his eyes and uses the scaled eyes technique to determine whether he is telling the truth. This ability also allows him to distinguish between good and evil. After analyzing, he confirms the Guardian is telling the truth and genuinely intends to protect the dragons. However, he still cannot understand how the demons managed to open those portals. The Guardian then says he has a request. He asks to remain there to protect the green dragon. The Dragon Clan created a bond between him and the green dragon, so he does not want to be separated from her. John extends his hand and pierces into the core. When he pulls out the metal piece, he looks inside and confirms there is indeed an energy core. He then uses the power of the Time Watch, the same divine force that returned him to this world. Chains from the watch seal the green dragon's energy and transform it into an hourglass. This item will help detect future threats. The Guardians promise they will take care of the dragons, but John says he will only accept one of them. If they refuse, all of them will be destroyed. If they agree, he will allow only one Guardian to stay in the house. The three accept and leave the decision to the remaining Guardian. Thus, they reach an agreement. The Guardian with the hole in his chest declares he will never abandon the green dragon. He says he is willing to give his life. To test him, the protagonist strikes him. After stepping on the Guardian, he asks if he is truly ready to sacrifice his life for the green dragon. The man answers yes. John presses down even harder, cracking the entire floor. He asks one final time, "Are you sure you would trade your life for hers?" The Guardian says yes again. The other Guardians realize he is extremely stubborn and comment that he has always been foolish for placing the Dragon Clan above his own life. John concludes that he is the only one who is completely loyal. The test ends, and he identifies the other three as potential traitors, eliminating them. The only one left alive is the injured Guardian. John tells him he can stay in the house, and says he admires his loyalty. The Guardian asks why he was the only one spared, even though he was the weakest of the four. John replies that it is precisely because of his loyalty, and adds that he will now have a role in the house. He then introduces the Guardian to the three girls, and says that from now on he will be the cleaner. The man clearly did not expect that job. Plot twist nobody saw coming. And so we reach the end of this story. Things are getting really interesting, so if you want me to bring part 2 quickly, comment Dragon's Guardian. The more comments you leave, the more YouTube will recommend our video to others. I will leave 2 videos in the card that I am sure you will enjoy, so I will see you there. That is all for now. Thanks and see you later, everyone.